Okay, well, we're moving right along. We're thrilled. We're gonna do yet another shift of gears. We're gonna be joined by our next speakers, Amy Bilodeau of Home Depot Canada, and she's going to be joined by Shannon Jackson of Durham Youth Services, and they are going to take us to an entirely new gear. Amy and Shannon, over to you.
Okay, great. I was feeling really nervous, but Ariana did such an amazing job, so I'm feeling like you really set a great example for us. So thank you so much for having us today. We're going to talk a little bit about the Home Depot Canada Foundation, some of the work that we do. I'm also going to follow the suit of some of the earlier presentations, so I would love to see a show of hands for those in the room that knew the Home Depot Canada had a foundation. Awesome. Okay, and maybe keep them up if you knew we had a commitment to ending youth homelessness. Okay, this is a great room. Really happy to see that and to know we're in great company. So my name is Amy Bilodeau, and I serve as the Senior Manager of Community Investment. And I'm joined today by Shannon Jackson, who's the Executive Director for Durham Youth Services, and one of our great examples of a partnership, which felt like a good opportunity while we're all here talking partnerships to do this one together. And I think we've talked a lot about inputs and we've talked a lot about outcomes today. And so our outcome that we hope to achieve with this presentation is for my nonprofit colleagues in the room, we are really just hoping to present the best-in-class example of how we partner in the community, really with the intention of increasing the funds that we raise in our stores. So, part of the intention of asking the question around if you're familiar with us and our work is because we find that we are kind of a bit of a best-kept secret in a lot of spaces. People don't necessarily know the work of the Home Depot Canada Foundation, and it's something that we're really working on right now. We feel like we're maybe doing a bit of a disservice to the homeless youth sector and all the amazing work that's happening if we're not talking about it and if we're not bringing light to this important issue. And so we're on a bit of a brand journey and have a bit of a brand identity crisis right now. And so, I just love to hear that people kind of know about our work. And that's part of some of the work that we want to present today as well, with the intention of just sharing some really great content with all of you, is just to share some insights from a recent Canadian landscape analysis we did in the retail fundraising space. We're also going to talk about the Orange Door Project campaign, and then I'm going to save lots of time for us to talk about our partnership and then answer any questions that you might have. And something I've loved being part of the conversation the last 2 days is just hearing, all the things that I think we talk about, and I have a group of colleagues here today, we talk about on a regular basis of how do we lead with our values? How do we ensure that, the work we're doing is actually creating social impact? We are a very values-based company, and I love being in all of your company because I think people hear Home Depot and they're like, oh my gosh, I love going to my Home Depot store on the weekend, or Jim in the paint department is got me through my reno last winter. And so it's awesome to hear that, because it is really how we operate as a business and as a store and how we lead in the community. We're very values-based. So of course, I'm not wearing my apron, but we do wear our aprons. Orange is our color. And on every apron, you can see our values wheel. And it really does indicate our founders, what their passion was for starting this retail business. And right on there is giving back to the community and taking care of our people. And we really do lead with those values. We have an inverted pyramid that puts the customer first. And so, it really just leads naturally into the community investment work that we do, but it truly is the ethos of the company. And I think something that we are just so proud of and really helps us to be able to do the work that we do. So we have 4 pillars to our community investment, just to give you a bit of sense, I guess, of who we are. So we are prevented to ending youth homelessness. That's our big, hairy, audacious goal. Aspirational, of course, but it is something that we are really passionate about. And we've committed $125 million towards this cause. So we've been a foundation since 2008. 2012 is when we made this mandate. And I know Paul Klein is in the room. The Impact Foundation was very pivotal in helping us to kind of look at the work we were doing at that point and look and decide, okay, we're a Canadian housing retailer. We want to make a difference in a space where we can truly I think, see the value in our contributions and know that we're helping this, really important cause. And so by focusing on youth homelessness, the intention is to prevent and end chronic homelessness. And we define youth as 12 to 29. So we try to be really broad so that we really can help organizations in every community that are aligning with the mandate. And again, we're 125 million is our commitment by 2030, and we're just over 81 million. So we're feeling like we've done a lot in the sector, in the space. Thank you. But a lot more to go. So feeling really good, I think, where we're at, and about 30,000 youth at risk are experiencing homelessness a year. We talked a lot about volunteering as well, and that skills-based volunteer program. If you've been in a Home Depot store, I think a big part of the advantage we provide is that our associates actually are experts in their work, and they know all the products that we sell. They can really provide expert advice. So then imagine what they can bring to a community construction project. It's pretty incredible. They're all general contractors or pros. They all have these skills and abilities. So our Team Depot program is our volunteer program, and it truly does have a great opportunity to get out in the community, do amazing things, and really, make a dent, I think, in some really great housing projects. We just made a bit of a shift in our Team Depot mandate. So prior to this year, we encouraged all our stores to get involved with their community. One of our corporate strategies is your community store, which means we want all 182 Home Depot stores to look like, community centers, to leaders, to really be responding to the changing needs in their local community. And one of the ways we do that is, allowing Team Depot to really support any of those projects. But this year we have also asked our stores to partner with their local youth serving organization and actually get out and volunteer with that organization so that our associates understand the work of our charity partners that are supported by the foundation in a greater way. And we'll talk about that strategy, but that's something new that we're doing this year. And we're at 91% in terms of all of our stores, all of our distribution centers, and our head office in terms of participation rates in 2024. So we have really high engagement in this program, which means a lot to us. Our Homer Fund program is lesser known. It's very much, it's a nonprofit run by our US organization, and it is very much an internal United Way campaign is kind of how I would describe it. So the Homer Fund is supported by the company. It's also supported by us as associates, and it's really available for associates in need. Being a part of a U.S. company, the social safety net's a bit different in the U.S., so we know, there's a lot of need for even our associates in terms of unexpected injuries, medical, especially in the U.S., we know medical bills can be a big burden for people. So, the Homer Fund is an opportunity where if you have a flood in your basement and your water heater and your water softener break, that's a huge unexpected expense. You can apply for funding for the Homer Fund. If you have a death in your family, you need to fly across the country, you can apply for funding from the Homer Fund to be able to, leave some of that burden of an unexpected tragedy for our associates. So that's something that we're really proud of. And then we also do some work in the disaster relief space, mostly, flooding response. BC fires is an area where we've provided some support. Again, in the US, we have a massive team in a war room because they're responding to hurricanes, they're responding to these really large natural disasters, and so that humanitarian response, you would imagine, Home Depot has generators. We have, supplies that can be really valuable in these situations, and so that's kind of how some of that work comes together. And we have a small but mighty team of 6 of us, I think, here in Canada that's doing all this work. So can kind of relate to some of the conversations that have been happening too, where we'd love to be able to do more, but we are a private corporate foundation, we are part of the company, and so we're always having to prioritize different things in this space. And because everyone talked about data and measurement, I do just want to share really quickly, we do have a theory of change. We are, and I'll shout out to Lynn, who's in the audience as well, who helped us when she was with Social Impact Advisors to create this. This is something that is work that we've embarked on in the last 3 years, and I'm not going to speak too much on it, but I know a lot of us are trying to figure out a lot of the conversations Brad spoke to this morning, like at the end of the day, we have a foundation board that's made up of leaders of the company who know numbers and figures and look at P&Ls all day, and they want that same ROI on the work of the foundation. And I mean, we spend a lot of time trying to direct those conversations in different ways, but by bringing in our theory of change and really focusing our work on and also we are doing an evaluation strategy, which I learned some things from Lauren and Jason's conversation yesterday that I think we're going to look at implementing. But we really are trying to bring in a data solution that alleviates the lift from our nonprofit partners and allows us to tell our impact in a bigger way. The biggest challenge we face, and I think our nonprofit partners face, is that youth homelessness is very hidden. So it's really hard to be able to actually track what those numbers look like and how many youth are exiting out of homelessness when you've got a lot of youth who are maybe crashing on a friend's couch or who are staying with another family member. These youth are really in transition. So I think that's something that we know has been a big issue in being able to kind of track the data and track the sector. So we're making our best sort of stab at it, I would say. I don't know if it's perfect, but it is something that we're looking at. And then the other thing I'll just say that's part of our partnership and part of the work we're doing nationally right now is prevention. Prevention is huge, I think, in every sector. We get an oil change on our car so that we prevent the engine from malfunctioning later. We run because we want to make sure our heart's in a great condition so we can maintain our health. So it's not different in the youth homelessness sector. There's some really amazing work that can happen that can stop that youth from ever experiencing that instance of homelessness, thus not becoming entrenched in chronic homelessness. So, I'd say from the 81 million we've invested to date, maybe 20-25% is in the prevention space. Our goal is to shift that and be like an 80-20 in prevention by the end of our 125 million. So that's where the majority of our programming truly lives right now. It makes for a difficult conversation when you're talking to people who are used to investing in, housing, retail, and contractor services. We're brick and mortar as a company, and so we've had to do a lot of work and have a lot of conversations with our foundation board to be able to say, there's so much more value in investing in a program, youth support worker who can actually, have conversations with families, have, this really direct impact on youth that is proving to be more valuable than, some of those larger capital projects that maybe are more in our wheelhouse. So I'll just say that in terms of how the work that we're doing is currently kind of shifting. And what we're here to talk about today is our customer fundraising campaign. So let me see, is that going to change? Maybe not. There we go. Nope, have to press the right button. Key. Okay, so our customer fundraising campaign. So if you've been in a Home Depot store during the spring around our garden season and then as well during the holiday season, you would have hopefully interacted with our Orange Door Project campaign. So the Orange Door Project campaign is our direct point of sale ask. Any of our customers will be asked to support. It's a 2, 5, 10 donation directly at point of sale. We have all 182 stores participate. We have 127 partners that are part of that program. And we raise $2 million annually, and we invest just over 2.2. So we do a little bit of matching on top of that as well. And I think part of the opportunity in this conversation and why we wanted to talk about this work today is because we're funded by our company, of course. The Home Depot is very generous to us. We're funded by our suppliers and vendors. So if you do any business in the Home Depot, we expect that you're going to support the foundation. And then we're funded by our customers. And we've grown exponentially the last 4 years. But the only place that we haven't significantly grown is with our customer. And so we're really trying to understand, what does that look like? Is it a stigma or a branding issue? Is that an associate engagement issue? Are we making sure that our cashiers feel confident making that ask? So we're doing a lot of work right now to kind of understand what that looks like. And as part of that, what we did was a little bit of an insights survey this past spring. So we have the benefit of being part of a large corporation that has an insights team, and they went out and did this research so that we could try and understand where trends in Canadian giving currently are. And then we all talked about measuring ourselves. We obviously measure ourselves against our competitors, and so we want to know what are those big charity partners that are doing well that every Canadian knows about and supports. Obviously, we're in a similar business to a Canadian Jumpstart, so we know they have this really great brand representation and awareness of what's working there. How can we kind of, be able to draw on some of that for ourselves as well? And then what's our overall brand health? So I thought for our nonprofit partners in the room, this might be helpful information, just as you're thinking about what your retail partnerships look like, and if you're working with any companies that are doing those direct point of sale asks. These are just some of the trends that we we also thought were pretty interesting. So in terms of shifts in charitable giving, I think we all know that inflation is a really hot topic. It's impacting a lot of families right now. Grocery prices, all these things are having a real impact on people's bottom line and their ability to make bill payments. And so that is having a shift on an impact on donor behavior. So we are seeing that as budgets at home become tight, you're going to be a little bit more, cautious in what type of donations you're giving. It's not so significant. Like, there's still 47% they're saying they're donating the same as before, but I think you will see that, as we continue to see the impact of things like affordable housing and things like inflation, that is going to have an impact on donations in stores. I think it's definitely something that we're watching. The other thing that we thought was helpful information for us and something that's impacting some of our planning is Canadians are more likely to make donations when emotions are heightened. So during the holiday season, we do have a holiday campaign because we also know people are really generous during the holiday season, but you're also thinking about other people's circumstances if you're fortunate, right? So we know that a lot of people are more willing to give during that time, and then times during crisis. So for example, when a flood does hit a region, we do get our customers asking, why are we supporting this issue when we could be supporting, direct relief? And there have been times where we've actually shifted our point of sale campaign to be able to support, for example, the Canadian Red Cross during a time when there's an emergency crisis happening. So we've just found this to be really interesting data that we're kind of leveraging and using in our own way. And then the last thing that we found really interesting, again, for us, because we're trying to determine what's the differentiator for a customer to make that donation at checkout. And the big insight for us here was the match. And so we do some matching from the Home Depot Canada Foundation, but we don't do any matching from the company. So I think that's going to be really interesting for us. We're going to actually test it out on Giving Tuesday. So if you are in a Home Depot store, you can have your dollars matched, or online through Canada Helps. So that is an immediate change that we're going to be making. But this is interesting too, because we do sell products in stores in support of our charity partners. But a lot of the results from the greater survey that we did and some of the other findings were that people don't want the purchasing necessarily. They don't necessarily need the item to be able to contribute. They just want to know that the cause is impacting their local community. So those dollars are going directly into their community. And they just want to feel, confident that they're able to make a difference, and that they're, the retailers doubling the impact is also a huge incentive. So just some interesting pieces there, and I'm happy to discuss these a little bit further if they're of interest to anyone, but I'm going to shift gears now and we're going to talk about the Orange Door Project campaign. So I mentioned, I think, kind of overall what the intent of the project, but I just, for us, there's three things that are really important. It is community driven, so if you go into a Home Depot store during the Orange Door Project campaign, your local partner is receiving 100% of those funds. We have a team that offsets all of our campaign costs, but every dollar raised is going back directly into the community. It is associate-led, so if our associates don't make that ask, the donation dollars don't come in. So part of the challenge of being part of a US company is that point of sale system is not something we can actually tap into. And we do the Orange Door Project campaign in Canada, but not in the US. So a bit of a different climate, and the decision has been all of the stores in the US don't do point of sale donation drive. So it means that we really depend on our associates to make that ask. And then we also equip our stores to really build relationships with their local partner, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then the other thing that's really a focus for us is 365 engagement. So making sure that we're not just having this partner come into the store during the Orange Door Project campaign, that they're actually building relationships outside of that time together, volunteering together. Those are the partnerships that I think really do demonstrate the strongest longevity. We have Orange Door Project campaign partners that have been working with their local store for as long as the foundation has had this mandate. So when it's done in the right way, which we're going to talk about, I think there's just really great opportunities for our nonprofit partners. And I'm now going to stop talking. I'm going to welcome Shannon to talk about their work and experience working with us.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah. Awesome. So thank you, Amy, for today and for everything that you do. I was really excited about the opportunity to come and talk about our experience working with the Home Depot Canada Foundation, and in particular the Orange Door Project campaign. First, I wanted to talk about why this kind of funding is so critical to an organization and nonprofit like Durham Youth Services. At DYS, we partner with youth who are 16 to 24 years old to achieve and maintain lasting solutions to their housing crisis. We offer a variety of supports in youth homelessness prevention, rapid rehousing, and housing stability. We get the bulk of our funding through the government, and we're grateful for it, but that funding comes with a host of restrictions and eligibility criteria that actually dictates who we are allowed to serve and which youth are able to access our services. We are relatively well funded to be able to shelter youth while they are actively experiencing homelessness. But we are not going to end youth homelessness by sheltering youth. We need early intervention, effective prevention programming, and effective after-housing stability supports to actually break the cycle of homelessness. So I am so excited to hear that the Home Depot Foundation is focused on prevention and that is growing, because that has been so incredibly impactful for us. Through the Home Depot Foundation Youth Opportunities Grant, we've been able to hire a housing support worker who has worked inside the school systems. And they've been able to tap into and support that 3 out of 5 youth that we know are experiencing homelessness, who are couch surfing, but they're not identifying as homeless, so they're not calling for shelter and that kind of support. 93% of the youth that we served through that program and that we met through that program, where we were able to catch them at the front end of their housing instability, we were able to help them transition to safe, affordable, and appropriate housing. Another thing that we've been able to do with the proceeds of the Spring Orange Door campaign, we just launched Night Stop. Night Stop is a super innovative community hosting program where homeowners with space in their home and their hearts are able to open their spare bedroom and help a young person resolve their housing crisis without ever accessing the shelter. Because no matter how safe you make a shelter, there is no way to keep impressionable young people from being exposed and introduced to a very street-involved population. We literally could not do this prevention work if it wasn't for the Home Depot Canada Foundation and their commitment to being able to provide support that we know that we can count on. The Orange Door Project is going to run twice a year, every year. It's a donation that will be significant. It's a donation that we can use in planning, and we can build meaningful, impactful programs around it. And we can count on it, and we are empowered to decide how we use that to be able to make the most difference, and that makes all the difference. And so, because we rely on that funding so deeply, it's our responsibility as a charity to make sure that our stores are successful with the information and the tools that they need to be able to be successful. I'm talking to the charities in the room who work with retailers now. It's up to us to understand the realities of the retail environment. It is not good enough to leave a trifold brochure at guest services and tell them that their cashiers can take a look at it if they get time. That's not going to help them be empowered to ask people for money. Asking people for money is hard, and it's especially hard if you don't know where it's going. So a couple of things we do. We do work with our stores throughout the whole year, right? We try to be there when it's not in the middle of the campaign for them to know who we are and how what they're doing is making a difference. At the beginning of the campaign, we go into each of the stores and we present to the managers in their manager meeting with talking about specifically what we plan to do with that cycle's campaign proceeds so that they have an understanding of where that money is actually going. We show up to the events that the stores are having. They do these like DIY craft workshops and barbecues and different things that are fun to engage their consumers and their associates, and we show up and talk about how this is helping. We send volunteers into the stores on a weekly basis to engage consumers and store associates. But I think the most impactful thing that we did was we created a small video, right? Remembering the realities of the retail environment. We have a 4-minute video that talks about the realities of youth homelessness right in Durham region, in their local community. It talks about what DYS does, who we are, and what we do. It thanks them for what they're doing and says specifically how we use $2, $5, and $10 so that they have the information and insight to be able to share that in store. My favorite moment, oh, and by the way, the year we introduced that and it ran on a loop in the lunchrooms of all of the stores, our success in fundraising through the stores that we work with went from $17,000 to $36,000. So the information counts. My favorite moment of that campaign, by the way, was that my own lawnmower broke at home, and I went to Home Depot to buy a lawnmower, and a cashier who had no idea who I was made such an impassioned plea for me to donate for youth homelessness that I gave $20 to my own cost. And I'm like, and by the way, it was amazing. She's like, do you know that $10, and I'm like, I do, and thank you. I like to say that every day, the folks at Home Depot help people build their homes, fix their homes, and beautify their homes. And twice a year with the Orange Door campaign, they let young people live inside homes. And that is everything. This mission is so deeply personal to me. And I can't think of another partner I've ever worked with that I believe, as much as I do, Home Depot Canada Foundation, they care about this mission as much as I do, and that means everything.
Oh,
that's it.
And we have a video that we'll share in our presentation for anyone that wants to look at after.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Amy and Shannon. There are a bunch of questions, and I can't even summarize them, but I'll try and encapsulate them into one question: the impact of point of sale, right? Of self-checkout on point of sale. Right, the less engaging experience for people at the checkout. They're not dealing with a person; they're dealing with a terminal. So, what are the impacts to the campaign, the business, and to the charitable partner?
Yeah, in terms of like assisted checkouts and
the terminal machines, like
Yeah.
with the self-checkout.
Self-checkout, yeah. That's a big threat to the campaign. And it's something that our stores are gonna have an increasing amount of. So it's something that we spend a lot of time thinking about and spending time. Right now, our solution is twofold. So we do have, as much as we can, like screen wraps and content that really talks about the local impact and trying to draw the eye of the customer before they're checking out. And then we also have really engaged associates. So we have associates that are stationed in that space that are still having those conversations, still supporting in the checkout process and kind of naturally having those conversations. But it is something that I think is gonna have an impact. We know it is having an impact. Another solution that we are looking at, to Shannon's point, having the nonprofit partner in the space talking to customers so that by the time they get to the checkout, they're already going to make that decision. They're looking for the opportunity to scan. So as much as we can amplify the in-store engagement before they check out, that's a big focus of ours right now as well.
And Shannon, what is a true partnership with a corporate sponsor look like to you? And how have you been able to take your relationship with the Home Depot Foundation and perhaps apply some of those learnings to some of your other charitable partners?
Yeah, I think that somebody said earlier that there's that lack of power imbalance, and that I think that for me with Home Depot, when I say that they care about the cause as much as I care about the cause, I feel like we're both in this to end youth homelessness, right? It's mission driven, not just for us. It's not a marketing ploy for them and a mission ploy for me. We are all in this to actually make a difference. And so in other partnerships that I have worked with other corporations now, I've talked about that experience, and I've talked about how this mission changes our society, and really looked to engage in that same way. I think as well, just as I begin a corporate partnership, understanding what is it that they're hoping to get out of engaging with us and in supporting us, and how can I help to amplify that for them.
Great. And finally, Home Depot is obviously a massive international organization. How do you ensure consistency across borders, or is that something you even try and do?
We definitely try to. So the U.S. Foundation's mandate is veterans homelessness, and actually that was, we looked at that space a few years ago, but it's a bit different in Canada in terms of the need there. That's why we stuck with youth homelessness. But we benefit from being a big company from that perspective. We're a small team in Canada, so the resources that we get from working with the U.S. Foundation team and the trends and just the learnings are pretty significant for us. So it's actually really important for us to work with both our US counterparts and our Mexico counterparts, just from a knowledge learning perspective, but also it does really help our resourcing as well.
Well, Amy and Shannon, thank you so much for taking us on a different journey, shifting gears. Really appreciate you coming.